Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Nothing on the surface of the world can hide from satellites. Today, I'll be checking out a previously unknown civilization, a conspiracy of pyramids in China, and shocking news on Area 51. Area 51. Something very unusual is going on at Area 51. But that isn't exactly a surprise, is it? Area 51 has been a mystery ever since the public figured out that it's the United States' premier secret military base. It's believed that Area 51 is the place where the government is busy dissecting aliens and recreating extraterrestrial spaceships. There's no real proof that Area 51 is a hub for aliens, but that doesn't stop millions of people from believing it's true. Alien hunter Scott Waring was browsing recent satellite images of Area 51 when he found what appeared to be entrances to an underground base. They are in the middle of absolutely nowhere, in the desert outside Area 51's main area, which is secured behind a long fence. There's a gravel road. The road winds through dust and ends abruptly at a large patch of gravel. If Area 51 weren't so close, this could be mistaken for an ordinary staging area. Except the images show that there are two entrances leading underground. There are a pair of huge portals that look big enough to accommodate aircraft and other military vehicles. Scrutinizing the nearby area revealed what looked like air vents sticking out of the dirt. This is obviously, if the pictures are any indication, a secret subterranean base. Scott, a man who loves his conspiracy theories, claims that the base is proof of an alliance between the American military and a race of space aliens. I can't vouch personally for any alien alliance, but the satellite images are real and they do show what appear to be entrances to a hidden bunker or a base. There is no public information about what's hidden here in the desert. However, the US is notorious for building underground bases. Shan Mountain, for example, is a preposterously big military installation that's carved into a mountain. So it isn't surprising in the slightest to learn that there could be an extension of Area 51 buried in the desert. And now for a quick break because it's shout-out time! I want to give a big shout-out to Just the Postman and Yeah Boy! Thanks so much for watching and supporting Origins Explained. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the family. Unknown societies. 100 entirely new prehistoric sites were recently found scattered across Central Europe. The sites were discovered by archaeologists using Google Earth. But who would have imagined that settlements from an unknown civilization could be revealed using the same software you use to peep into your neighbor's backyard? For years, archaeologists have theorized about an advanced civilization that thrived in Central Europe between 2200 and 1600 BC. They suspected that the mysterious society abandoned their settlements in 1600 BC before disappearing. However, finding these prehistoric sites has changed their opinion. Researchers at the University College Dublin are now under the impression that the mysterious civilization didn't disappear. Instead, they spread into an extremely complex network of much smaller societies. What the researchers found on Google Earth is nothing short of extraordinary. They were able to identify the barely visible ruins of megalithic fortresses and small settlements. Most of these places were connected to one another by rough trails, suggesting that they were all part of the same civilization. Researchers now believe that they had sophisticated politics, with one body to govern the whole area. The society was becoming more innovative as the years went on, developing ideas and becoming better organized. More research still needs to be done though. Right now, the civilization doesn't even have a name. So until an official name can be given, the Bronze Age people are being called the Tisa Site Group. All researchers have to understand these people are a handful of ancient graves and the newly found settlements that are spread across Serbia and Hungary. Undersea volcanoes. 19,000 sunken volcanoes have just been found thanks to satellite images. And that's not a typo, it's real life. Specialized radar satellites have been hard at work trying to scan the ocean floor for seamounts and potentially deadly volcanoes. In 2011, radar satellites identified 24,000 undersea volcanoes, and now 19,000 more have been added to the list. Scientists say there are also 27,000 other volcanoes that have been identified, but none of them have been charted. If you start adding up these numbers, things get scary quickly. There must be over 100,000 undersea volcanoes, most of which are totally unknown, at the bottom of the ocean. But just how dangerous is an undersea volcano? In 2005, the American nuclear submarine USS San Francisco collided with an underwater volcano. It hit the seamount at top speed and killed a crew member. Then, in 2021, the USS Connecticut also smashed into an underwater volcano. Other than being a hazard to submarines, most undersea volcanoes are totally harmless. In fact, they could be good for the economy. Larry Mayer from the University of New Hampshire said the undersea volcanoes contain extremely rare minerals. Deep-sea miners could make a fortune off these sunken mountains. Right now, scientists are using satellites from the European Space Agency and from Indian and French agencies as well to detect any seamounts that are more than 3,000 feet tall. Humans in Antarctica. Mainstream science claims that Antarctica has been covered in ice for way more than 11,000 years. Yet ancient maps have been found from as recently as 500 years ago that depict Antarctica completely ice-free. So, what could this mean? And who could have created such unusual maps? One expert believes that Antarctica was once home to an advanced, ancient civilization. First, let me tell you about one of the unusual maps. In the 16th century, Philippe Gouache created a very special map. It shows Antarctica centuries before any human stepped foot on its shores, but it shows Antarctica without the mile of ice that's currently on its surface. So, how could Philippe 500 years ago have even come up with such an idea without ever reaching Antarctica? Surely he knew of it if he drew it, right? Independent researcher William James Field has been trying to explain the Antarctic mystery. He's used remote sensing satellite photography to expose unusual features on the frozen continent. He's even identified human heads and animal portraits that appear to demonstrate intelligent life in Antarctica. Remote sensing is a technique that exposes images on the ground. Satellites can identify anomalies on the surface, things like ruins, geoglyphs, and rock sculptures. Amazingly, William has identified symbols along the coastlines of South America, Newfoundland, Africa, and Australia. Many of the symbols are eerily similar, suggesting that a group of transoceanic adventurers were going from continent to continent thousands of years ago. If there was a civilization that was able to sail across the globe, they could have visited Antarctica. This could explain how explorers 500 years ago drew pictures of Antarctica. They'd heard stories of it and knew there was a continent at the bottom of the world. But how does that explain the Greek geographer Marinus of Tyre? Marinus of Tyre claimed that he had knowledge of an ancient map depicting Antarctica in 400 BC. Aristotle knew of the place too, but he called it Terra Australis. This means that the seafaring society must have existed 2,400 years ago. But how far back do they go? The whole thing is extremely confusing, with no obvious answers. Then there are the satellite images taken by William James Field that show human heads etched into stone. On the rocky terrain of Antarctica, there are shapes that look like human heads. There are about 40 of them spread along the rocky coastline of the Ross Sea. But who could have possibly forged these unbelievable monuments? And why aren't scientists talking about them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe. The wooden satellite. Let's take a break from strange discoveries and look toward the future for a second. NASA and Japan are about to be sending a wooden satellite into orbit. The very first wooden satellite is set to be launched in the summer of 2024 by a team of American and Japanese scientists. But how in the world does a wooden satellite work? And what would the point even be? It's all about space junk. Did you know that there are over 100 trillion untracked pieces of debris from old satellites in orbit right now? The planet practically has its own asteroid belt of satellite metal, making it extremely dangerous for any astronauts attempting to break out of the atmosphere. Takao Doi from Kyoto University says that scientists are concerned about the satellites that re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. When they burn up, they create alumina particles that float inside the upper atmosphere. atmosphere. And with so many satellites in orbit now, the atmosphere is threatening to become clogged with these dangerous particles. To fix the problem, scientists want to start using wooden satellites. Japanese researchers launched the project in 2020 called the Lignostella Space Wood Project. They tested 3 different kinds of wood: Japanese cherry, magnolia bovate, and Erman's birch. Weirdly enough, all 3 samples worked extremely well in the harsh conditions of space. If the test launch is a success next summer, humanity could be entering an era of wooden space satellites. The Shan pyramids. Did you know that there are hidden pyramids all around the world? Pyramids even bigger than the ones in Egypt are hidden in plain sight across the globe, especially in China, where satellite images have revealed the shocking cover-up to erase ancient history. In 1945, American pilot James Gossman was flying over central China. He was astounded when his plane soared over a gigantic pyramid that looked as if it were built from shining marble. He managed to take a photograph as he passed, which you can see for yourself. He drew attention to the pyramid, but at the time, World War II was drawing to an end and nobody cared. Years later, in 1960, aviator Bruce Cathy out of New Zealand also came across the huge pyramid in China. And that was when more testimonies started showing up. A record was found from Fred Schroeder, a merchant who worked in China in 1912. He'd heard from a Mongolian guru about the pyramids in China, then went on a mission to see them for himself, which he did. The pyramids, the big white ones seen by James and several others, are located near the ancient capital of Shan. The biggest of them all stands over 900 feet tall, making it twice the size of the biggest pyramid in Egypt. Bruce Cathy identified at least 16 pyramids in a flatland occupied mostly by farms and fields. You've definitely heard of the Terracotta Army before, but you likely didn't know that they were found underneath one of these pyramids. The Terracotta Army was created specifically to be buried with the first emperor of unified China, Qin Shi Huang. His tomb was discovered underneath a humongous pyramid that stood nearly 300 feet tall. That's one part of the story people aren't typically told. All those terracotta warriors, buried for 2,200 years, were discovered underneath a forgotten pyramid. Out of all the pyramids in the area, though, the burial site of Qin Shi Huang and the Terracotta Army is the only one available to visit. China has gone through a lot of trouble to try and erase the other pyramids. Satellite photos show pyramids in the region that have been purposely covered in trees. Another satellite image from Google Earth shows one pyramid dotted with freshly planted trees, an obvious ploy to cover the structure in new growth. But why? Why is China so determined to keep the biggest pyramids in the world a secret? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The beasts of the bay. In the beautiful turquoise waters of New Zealand's Oak Bay, a monster is lurking. On Google Earth in 2014, a mysterious creature was captured in images slithering through the bay. When you zoomed into the bay, there was what looked like a sea serpent measuring no less than 30 feet long. The potential sea creature was spotted by engineer Pito Whitehira while browsing Google Earth. Pito was researching a place for his holiday home when he stumbled upon the thing in the water. Not only could you see the shape of it, but you could also see the wake left behind by its movement. There wasn't a boat in sight, so the wake definitely wasn't created by a vehicle. Something big passing through the bay created ripples the size of waves. This mystery was never solved. There were lots of rumors, but nobody ever found physical evidence of a sea serpent. The bay itself is pretty shallow, with lots of vegetation on its bottom. But then at the edge of the bay, there's a sudden drop and it becomes ocean deep. It's perfectly reasonable to think a long, slithery monster snuck into the bay for a quick look around and then dipped back into the deep sea. What's even crazier is that the presence of the creature may have been covered up. While looking at Google Maps to check if you can still see the creature, Oak Bay is now covered in white clouds. The entire bay is obscured in a mist like a white fog, but that fog isn't anywhere else. It's only in the bay, and almost looks like it was photoshopped to block something in the water. Take a look for yourself and let me know what you think. The Silk Road. Archaeologists examining images taken by spy satellites and military drones have uncovered outposts used by travelers during the days of the Silk Road. Deep in the deserts of Afghanistan, these spy photographs have revealed ruins of everything from trading posts to Zoroastrian fire temples. David Thomas is an archaeologist at La Trobe University in Melbourne, and he said that the discoveries made in Afghanistan are exceptional. One of the biggest issues with trying to explore the vast sandy deserts of the Middle East is that it can be a dangerous place. Archaeologists can't just roam freely through such a remote wasteland, but being able to dissect military photos has proven to be a huge advantage. Instead of physically going to investigate, archaeologists can look at the satellite images. The sites identified have been abandoned since at least the 17th century. The outposts were made of mud brick and likely held several hundred people and their livestock. Each outpost was within 12 miles of another outpost. 12 miles was also the distance a single camel caravan could travel along the Silk Road in a day. The point of the outpost was for merchants to have a place to sleep safely every night. This protected them from the dangers of marauding thieves. The caravans themselves would have been loaded with everything from gems to spices to dried fish. You might be a little shocked that I said this discovery dates back to the 17th century. It's generally agreed among historians that the Silk Road fell out of use in the 15th century. It was a result of sea trading becoming more popular, but these newly discovered ruins prove that might not be true. At least in Afghanistan, camel caravans continued along the Silk Road well into the 1600s. Thanks for watching! What's the most shocking satellite image you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more. See you in the next one. Bye!